Welcome to UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk with Dr. Jenna Blasi. I'm Dr. Jenna. I spent years crafting ways to help women thrive, and I want to help you do the same. On this podcast, we dive deep into health at every level, focusing on the mind, the body, and the spirit. This is where real conversations meet transformational wellness. We'll be talking about all the things that truly matter, from nutrition and fitness to lifestyle, mindset, and personal development. Plus, the real deal on managing stress and navigating menopause. So if you're ready to elevate your health journey with authentic, transformative insights, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hello, and welcome back to UPLEVEL. I am Dr. Jenna Blasi, and today I want to talk to you about willpower, and more specifically, why willpower is not enough. As we enter Halloween time, Thanksgiving, just the holidays in general, this is when people really start to feel out of control, and there's all the parties and the get-togethers. And so today, what I really want to hone in on is when willpower isn't enough, and how we can really build lasting habits that stick. Willpower fails. It fails, especially with food, with exercise, with stress. So we're going to talk about the neuroscience and behavior change that research shows is effective, and simple steps to make new habits or the habits that you want to instill automatic instead of them being draining. Okay. Have you ever asked yourself, or said to yourself, this time I'm really going to stick with it? So, ask yourself, what's wrong with me? How come I never stick with things? Or found yourself saying, this time I'm really going to do it. And then quote unquote life happens. We all have, all of us, even the most, quote unquote motivated of us. Motivation fades, stress kicks in, things happen in our lives that are unexpected, and we fall back into familiar patterns. Everyone has been there. And so this is that tug of war, that constant tug of war for many of you between motivation and fatigue, good intentions and old patterns. So this is why I want to do a deeper dive into why willpower is not actually the problem. Your system is the problem. And so when you understand how your brain and your hormones are driving habits, you can make healthy behaviors automatic instead of being draining. This is not about discipline. It's about strategy. It's about how you design your internal systems, if you will, your environmental systems, right? When we understand how our emotions work, how our brain is functioning, our hormones, we can make those healthy habits actually feel natural, right? Instead of this draining tug of war. So looking at why willpower fails, first of all, willpower is finite. Studies show that self-control depletes like a muscle. So there's sort of only so much of it. Stress, lack of sleep, hunger, those all drain it faster. And decision fatigue is real. Decision fatigue is real. I have a whole podcast on decisions. So if you are, as I was, a chronically indecisive person, I recommend read Napoleon's Hill chapter on decision-making, study decision-making, listen to my podcast on decisions, because decision fatigue is real. It's exhausting. It's draining. And the average person makes over 200 food decisions a day, just food. We talk about food noise. Have you heard people? That's why a lot of people are liking GLP-1s, because it actually helps calm that food noise. The average person makes over 200 food decisions a day. So every little decision that comes up for you, it actually drains your mental energy and it chips away at willpower. Hormonal shifts matter as well. So looking at, again, why willpower fails, it's finite. Decision fatigue is real. So we're constantly, when we're trying to have willpower about exercise, food, etc., we're making tons of decisions, which is exhausting. And hormonal shifts matter. So cortisol and stress will amplify cravings. Low estrogen, which we talk a lot about, particularly in midlife, affects dopamine and serotonin, which affects mood. It affects your reward response, meaning your brain literally craves comfort and reward more easily. I've talked about a few episodes ago where I have battled since menopause, perimenopause, wasn't so much of an issue for me. But when I actually got into postmenopause, my food cravings, my desire for comfort food and reward food really went up. The brain is literally craving more of that. And so it makes these reward seeking behaviors more likely. Comfort food, scrolling, skipping workouts. So for example, imagine like a smart, capable woman who nails every business decision. Boom, boom, boom. At the end of the day, she's eating mindlessly or drinking wine, just coping by the end of the day. Not because she lacks discipline, but because her brain is depleted. Her brain is depleted. I can really relate to this. Like I can go all day, and then at the end of the day, I just, it's like there's a certain doneness. So when we look at the neuroscience and behavior change research, habits run on cues. Habits run on routines, and habits run on rewards. So there's this book called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, I think is how it's pronounced. And he talks about this. Every behavior your brain repeats through this loop: cues, routines, rewards. Okay, so the cue is the trigger, the situation that starts it, like stress, fatigue, seeing a snack, like which is surrounded by things, right? And then number 2 is the routine, the behavior, what you automatically do in response to that cue, to that trigger. And then 3, reward, is the result, the comfort or pleasure that your brain expects. So we don't actually break bad habits. We can't break them. We have to replace this loop. We have to change this. So the cue will still fire, but you swap in a new routine that delivers the same emotional reward in a healthier way. So for example, if your evening cue is stress, instead of wine or chips or whatever, try a 5-minute walk, breath work, or a quick body, like shake it out, shake it off, shake it out. Something that gives your brain the same feeling of release. Now, I'm not sure how long this episode is. If there's time at the end, we can go a little bit deeper into some examples of how you can do this. But for now, let's just talk about kind of 30,000 foot view of changing this cycle. Because the truth is that emotion wins over logic. 95% of our daily behavior is subconscious. That's why I was talking when I do mindset work about rewiring our brains, changing the paradigm, because 95% of our behavior is on automatic from the subconscious. So the brain's reward system, which is your limbic center, is what keeps these habits alive. It's not reason. It's not willpower, which is why you're like, I'm going to do it. And then these habitual patterns, the subconscious takes over. An environment will beat motivation any day of the week as well. So people who create visual or physical cues, like filling a water bottle the night before or keeping walking shoes by the door, are 2 to 3 times more likely to follow through. That's why, like, sometimes for people who never have an exercise program, it's not about like just jumping in and doing it. You might start with putting running shoes on every day, CrossFit shoes, whatever. But you don't actually do anything. And then you start building. All right, we're going to talk about habit stacking as well. So when we look at, the mindset piece is so important as well. We have a whole episode on self-image, identity-based behaviors, right? Identity-based behaviors. Instead of, I want to exercise more, actually identify, try, I'm someone who moves my body every day to feel alive. I'm so happy and grateful now that I exercise every day, and it's easier for me to exercise than it is to not exercise, or whatever. I made that more complicated than it needs to be. But identity rewires behavior faster than goals. So if you have a goal, you want to change your identity because your goal cannot exceed your identity. So that's why we talk about coming from the future self, becoming who you want to be already. And then you start having identity-based behaviors. What would a happy person do? What would an athlete do? Or that may not be the best identity choice. And then want to remind you about neuroplasticity. Every repetition rewires your brain. Every repetition rewires your brain. This is how it's like when you're changing your diet, you may not eliminate all of the less healthy foods. You start to crowd them out with the healthier. The more choices you make that are healthy, you start to crowd out the unhealthy. It's the same with our thoughts. The more identity-based thoughts, the more we repeat, it starts to rewire. So, and the more often you repeat a desired habit, even just for 30 seconds, the stronger that neural pathway becomes. Now, studies on neuroplasticity of the brain say that I believe it takes 66 days to rewire the brain. And that's why I like to say, let's just do 90 days. Let's do 90 days to really get that new habit ingrained. So we want to rewire both our self-talk, our habits, all of the repetition so that it really starts to make a difference. I was thinking about the unhealthy food crowding out the healthy food, and it had me thinking of something else, but I don't remember what it was, so I'll come back to it if it comes to me. Now, when we do this repetition, when we're trying to get these habits going and becoming easier, becoming automatic, if you will, we want to look at how do we really make it stick? How do we really make it stick? So in the beginning, simplify the start. That's what I was talking about a few minutes ago. Shrink the action. So put your shoes on before go for a run. Or, if we wake up and we're like, okay, I got to run 3 miles. I got to run 3 miles. That's like, it's a bit overwhelming. But if you're like, hey, I'm just going to put my shoes on. And I've told you all the story of I love to exercise. I'm at the point in general, it is harder for me not to exercise than it is to exercise. But even that doesn't mean I'm always motivated. It means my commitment. So unless I really feel like I need recovery or I don't feel well, I'm typically going to give myself those nudges. And so that's what I do is I actually shrink the action. All right, just do something for 10 minutes, I'll tell myself. Or I'll be like, I'm just going to do a few lunges. That's it. I'm just going to do a few lunges and then I get moving. And so shrink the action. Put your shoes on before let me run 3 miles or before let me go for a run. And then stack new habits onto old ones. That's that habit stacking. And so if you have a habit of making coffee every morning, what can you stack onto that you do either before or after that? And then focus on frequency before intensity. If you go all in on intensity, you'll likely peter out or get injured or need more recovery, and that'll be really hard to get that habit going. So focus on being regular, focus on the frequency before the intensity. And then speaking of, the environment piece, we want to remove friction as much as possible, remove friction. So make healthy choices easier. Make them the easy choices, ideally, prep meals. Right? For exercise, keep your shoes visible. If your shoes are in a box at the top of the closet, in the back of the closet, right? You're not going to get them out. I'm exaggerating, obviously, but so prep meals, keep your shoes visible, set alarms, and then remove triggers. Remove as many triggers in your environment as you can. I love the alarms. The smartphones are great for setting various alarms to remind us to do stuff. And then with that decision fatigue piece, let's automate as many decisions as possible. Set recurring delivery, for example, for healthy staples, because we might be on a good roll and then we run out, right? We run out of the supplements or we run out of the healthy foods and so do any recurring delivery or have your cart ready to go. If you do Instacart or VitaCost is a great place to get. This is more like healthy toiletries, but anyway, so set recurring delivery for healthy staples. Have the same breakfast every day. That's okay, unless you get sick of it. Have the same breakfast every day so you don't have decision fatigue just trying to figure out what to have for breakfast. That's not a great way to start the day. Oh my gosh, what workout do I do? What breakfast? I will often decide, for the week and definitely the night before, what workout am I doing in the morning? I don't want to make that decision when I wake up. I don't want to start my day with decisions. I want to know what I'm doing. I'm going to get up. I'm going to do this. I map out my day. From this time to this time, I'm doing my meditation. From this time to this time, I'm doing my morning routine. Then I'm exercising. I know what workout I'm going to do. And so anything we can automate and make easier for ourselves is going to help. So if you take supplements, have subscription delivery, if you take supplements that are actually working for you and you know that they're helpful, then set them on automatic so you don't run out. I like to always have extra of whatever, whether it could be my makeup, could be my supplements, could be my protein powder, to make sure that I have extra so that it's there when I want it. And then preset workout alarms. And then we want to anchor in our emotion. Anchor in our emotion. Because remember, emotion wins over logic. You can tell yourself this, this, and this, but ask yourself, how do I want to feel? Oh, do I feel like working out? Don't ask yourself that. Ask, how do I want to feel before you start? Energy. What do you want your energy to be? Do you want to feel calm? Do you want to feel strong? Do you want to have energy? Because most of us, when we do the workout, for using that example, or when we eat the healthy meal, we feel better. We're more energized. We're more calm. So, my daughter doesn't always love that I like to work out in the morning. But I'm like, this sets the tone for my whole day. I'll be in a better mood. I'm calm. I feel strong. And then link the reward to that emotion. It's actually stronger than guilt. Guilt is not a good emotion. Guilt is low vibration, low frequency, not a good, healthy emotion. I don't like to say good, bad, so judgmental, but it's not a healthy emotion. It is, when we look at the Hawkins frequency scale of emotions, I've talked about this before, but like guilt and shame are, 15 or 20, and death is 0. So they're right above death. So let's let go of the guilt. I know many of us have backgrounds that have a lot of guilt baked into them, but the emotional reward actually cements the behavior stronger than guilt will. So when we're like, oh my gosh, I feel so energized, I feel so calm, I feel so strong, let that be what you are putting the focus towards. And then when we don't do it, when it slips, this is where we get into that all or nothing, right? It's not all or nothing, as I say over and over. And I think I have a whole podcast on this. It is all or something. All or something. Reframe relapses as data, not as failure. Every slip, we're like, oh, I didn't do whatever for however long you didn't do it, or I did the opposite for however long. It's feedback. It's not a flaw. Ask yourself, what system broke down? What support am I missing? That's why with the people that we're able to work with in our programs, support and mentorship is such a huge part. You need your support, whether it's in your environment, with your mentors, whoever it is. That's why people that have appointments with, personal trainers or go to group classes, and there's a camaraderie there. So ask yourself, what system broke down so that we can repair the system? We can get the right system up and going. What support is missing? And then midlife changes, energy, hormones, life load. This is not about your worth. So I want to remind you to be gentle. Be gentle. Being gentle keeps you consistent. It keeps your self-image strong. If you're beating yourself up, when someone's beat down, whether by yourself or somebody else, that's not motivating. I know that's a method that a lot of people use, but for the majority of people, that is not motivating. So if every time you equate a relapse or not doing what you intended to do with your self-worth, you're actually making it harder to pick back up and get back up, right? So if I overeat, for example, I'm not going to start beating myself up about it, because that's just going to send me into a downward spiral to do that more often. Keep your self-image strong. Oh, if you're going to, I'm a failure. Oh, I always do this. It's really going to make it worse. So recognizing midlife changes and all of these pieces and all the things going on, if we're sandwich generation and whatever, this is not our self-worth. So be gentle. It'll help you be consistent. Keep your self-image strong and really just look at feedback for what's going on. So some key takeaways here. Willpower it's really more of a temporary spark. And so many people are waiting for willpower, waiting for motivation. I often joke, like, there's not a magic fairy. There's not a magic willpower fairy. There's not a magic motivation fairy that comes and sprinkles and then you're suddenly motivated. It's a finite aspect to us. Commitment, we can be more consistent, right? These emotional pieces that I'm talking about. Discipline comes from these pieces. So willpower is a temporary spark, but the systems that you put in place, habit stacking, changing this cue, trigger, reward loop, that is what's going to bring the sustainability. They are the structure. The systems are the structure that are required for long-term success. And remember, success is just a series of small wins stacked up over time. And so emotion, environment, and identity drive behavior change far more than motivation. So start small. And I say this probably in every episode, because if you just take one pearl away, boom, right? So start small, stay consistent. And consistent doesn't mean being perfect. It means just keep trying, show up to the best of your ability, and you anchor every action in who you're becoming, not just what you're doing. It's not about what we're doing, it's who we are becoming. Because if who we're becoming is someone that exercises regularly, if we miss a day or two, it's not a big deal. But if we're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it, I'm a failure, and all those things, keep it in the right direction. Small, repeated actions are going to reshape your brain. And that is neuroplasticity in action. That is neuroplasticity happening. All right. So I'd actually like to keep this short and sweet because I don't want you to have too much time trying to just focus on, I want you to go take action, right? But I said I would go a little deeper into the habit loop from the power of habit. So for those of you that want to stick around, let's just go a little bit deeper into the habit loop, because every habit, good or bad, healthy or unhealthy, runs on a loop. And that loop is made of 3 parts, okay? So I'm just going to go through this again. Number 1, the cue, the trigger, the thing that starts the pattern. This is why I tell people we all have a self-saboteur. A lot of my program members, I talk about the self-saboteur, because if we don't know what our self-saboteur is, and we all have one, then we're going to miss the cue. Because there's a trigger before we sabotage. There's a cue before we sabotage. And if we know what it is, like one of mine is overwhelm. So I have to go upstream when I see that happening and start to break it down and break things into manageable pieces, because it will paralyze me. What is your cue for your self-sabotage? So the cue is the trigger. It's the things that starts the pattern. And it can be a positive one too, right? These can be healthy or unhealthy, but we're looking at changing habits. So you can utilize these either way. So example, you walk into the kitchen after dinner. What is the automatic action? What is the number 2, the routine? The behavior, the automatic action? You open the pantry and grab a snack. So I used to have a habit when I was reading a book of I just wanted to snack. And it's like you could just mindlessly snack and read. And so I had to read, I had to trade that out. I had to come up with a different loop. So one of the things I did was I started switching it to snacking on carrots instead of chips and cookies and whatever else. So again, cue, the thing that starts the pattern, you walk into the kitchen after dinner, the routine, the behavior, the automatic piece, you open the pantry and grab a snack. Number 3, the reward, the result is the feeling your brain gets afterward. Oh, dinner's done. I'm going to have some chocolate. Ooh, little dopamine hit. I feel better. So that little dopamine hit from comfort, from pleasure, or from distraction. So over time, the brain connects the cue directly to the reward, even if the reward isn't healthy. It just connects it. The cue, reward, cue, reward. Doesn't matter if it's healthy or not. And this is why you can't just stop, in quotes, air quotes, stop a bad habit, because the cue still fires and your brain expects the reward. It's an uphill battle. So stop blaming yourself. You're not a failure. You're not broken. You just don't have the right system and or the right support. Okay. So to change it, because it's just that automatic behavior is baked into the middle of that. The cue, brain wants the reward. Cue, brain wants the reward. So to change it, keep the cue, change the routine, and honor the reward in a better way. Okay. So you keep the cue, because a lot of those cues they're going to be there, right? But you change the routine, and then you honor the reward in a better way. So for instance, cue, end of the day of a day of stress, end of workday stress. Would normally cue grabbing the bag of chips or whatever. New routine, 5-minute walk or a deep breath outside. The new reward, relaxation and an energy reset. So you get a new loop formed. And it's hard at first. Okay? It's hard. End of the day, cue the workday stress. Oh, wine. Not for me because I'm a non-drinker, but whatever yours is, right? Chips, maybe snapping at your family. I don't know, whatever it is. That wouldn't be a reward though. That's just a byproduct of not having the right reward. And so new routine, I'm going to go for a walk, take your dog for a walk, do some deep breathing, listen to music you like, whatever it is. And then you're like, oh, I feel really relaxed. I feel calm. I feel good. I have an energy reset. You're creating a new loop. So instead of trying to break habits through willpower, that's like strong arming. How many of you, strong arming doesn't work. When we force somebody else to do something, that usually doesn't end well. And so when we try to force ourselves to do something, that doesn't end well, and it's very draining. So instead of trying to break the habits through willpower, we're redirecting them. We are redirecting them through awareness and by actually designing how we want it to be. How do you want to feel? Because unfortunately what happens when you have that cue reward expectation that comes from something not healthy, we usually don't actually feel good. You don't get an energy reset. You don't feel good about yourself. So it's a vicious loop. It's a bad habit loop. And so when we change it, cue is still there, but when we change the routine, we change the reward. Remember, stick with it. It will take time. Then we actually get calm or feeling strong or feeling in integrity with ourselves, having an energy reset. And so we're actually redirecting these habits through awareness and through design. So I hope you found this super helpful, especially going into this season. I want you to implement this, give this a try. Let's not make this an all or nothing season this time. Let's get with the right team, the right coaches, the right mentors, the right accountability buddies, whatever it is. And then within yourself, doing this work to be gentle with yourself, work on your self-image, create new habits, and go into this holiday season feeling amazing. It is not about never having the things that are around us, but it's about staying in some sort of balance and integrity with our long-term goals. And you will be so grateful and so rewarded. And then you enter the new year strong. And too often people enter the new year like, and my joy, for those of you that have the opportunity to work with us and my team is let's make this your best holiday season ever, where you feel great, you enjoy the season still, and you're not doing a complete reset at the new year, but you're actually going in the new year with momentum, with like a strong path towards your goals. So thank you all so much. Have a beautiful day, and I will see you next time. Thank you for joining me on this episode of UPLEVEL, Real Health, Real Talk. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step in your health journey, one that nourishes not just your body, but your mind and spirit as well. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you found value in today's episode, please leave a review. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep thriving. And remember, true wellness is a journey, and you are on the right path.